Me and my friends Thomas and Lucy were talking today at school. We got onto the topic of myths around the town, and the one that stood out was the haunted house on Devil's Drop. The story goes that you go through the front door of the house only to leave out the back, falling into the pit of hell. We laughed and joked about the idea of going there when Thomas uttered the words, "So why don't we see if it's true then?" Both me and Lucy looked at each other with the look of, "Hell no." But Thomas begged us to at least consider it. Thomas left for his history lesson while me and Lucy stayed in the lunch hall as we had a free period. Lucy said we may be crazy to even consider the idea and reminded me of what happened to Jason Francis, who entered the house a year ago and has never been seen since. I, though, was curious and persuaded Lucy to go. I get a group phone call from Lucy and Thomas. Thomas, with excitement, starts telling me to get some things ready to go out tonight. I'm slightly confused and ask why. He quickly shoots me down, saying he'll explain more when they get to my house. Lucy simply says hi and she'll see me soon, in a confused tone. They hang up and I wait. I get a text from Thomas. It reads, "Sneak out the window, we're outside." He said this because he knew I wouldn't be allowed out this late on school night. My parents would flip, but the excitement for danger and being caught was too overwhelming for me to pass up such an adventure. We walked to the end of the street and turned onto the muddy path into the forest where we used to play as kids. I felt uneasy. As we got deeper into the forest, it felt like we were being watched. As we slowly got closer to the house, we hear in the distance voices chanting what sounded like gibberish. Thomas heard this and insisted we go look. I, on the other hand, wanted to get the hell out of there. I was getting scared at the thought we weren't the only people in the forest at night. As we got closer, we saw a fire with people crowded around it in hooded cloaks. It was a cult, and not the one that seemed the friendly kind. They wore masks that I could only describe as looking demonic-like. I froze in fear as to what I was witnessing. It was a blood sacrifice. A woman was laid on the table with these hooded people chanting around her. I whispered to Thomas, "Where's Lisa?" Thomas froze and replied, "I thought she was with you." Neither of us had realised that she had disappeared. We looked back to the fire and the woman on the table turned her head towards us. It was Lisa. I felt myself slowly go cold as I saw the dagger forced into her stomach, and she let out a scream of pain. I wanted to go help her but feared for my own life. But before we knew it, the group of people had spotted us and started chasing us through the forest. We managed to get to the street and sprinted off to my house. We charged through the front door of my house, waking my parents in the process. Wet and muddy, my parents looked at us in horror and confusion. My dad burst out with, "What the hell do you think you're doing at this time of night?" I replied with, "Lisa's dead, she's been killed." My parents stunned at hearing those words. We told them we went to their house on Devil's Drop and explained what we saw. My parents' reaction wasn't what I had hoped for. They just told me to go clean up and get myself to bed and that we'd speak about it in the morning. I couldn't believe it. I begged them to call 911, but it went on deaf ears. My dad gave Thomas a lift home where he was summoned by the same reaction. He couldn't believe it. We couldn't believe it. Our own parents playing deaf to a murder. My mind was racing with questions, but with no luck of any possible answers. I didn't sleep well at all that night, and every time I closed my eyes, all I could see was Lucy's blood-covered face staring back at me every time I closed my eyes.